Welcome back,
How does guys get laid more?
everybody. Number 9.
Eventually, sometime.
Ninth try
Ninth try.
today. We're in a new location.
We're at your dad's place.
That's right. And enough about that.
It's really pretty here. It's a little windy.
It is windy. It's pretty. It's kind of like a mini resort.
It is.
It's like a 4-bedroom resort.
You're living here now.
With 1 bedroom that's occupied by parents. By your parents. That's true. I'm living here while my house is being repainted and our bathroom's being remodeled. I'm learning so much about remodeling.
Yeah.
Contractors are going to push their agenda and you got to push back.
Oh, is that how it works?
That is what I'm learning.
Like going to the doctor's office?
Yeah.
Like if you're not an advocate for your own health, they'll just do whatever the fuck they want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a 6-foot by 12-foot bathroom is going to take 5 weeks to do.
Okay.
That's what they've told me.
Sure.
And when I asked the simple question of working every day, and their answer of, yeah, we'll be there pretty much every day. It's not true. It's not true at all. They're there for 2 days and then they're gone for 4. They're back for 2 days and they're gone for 3. And then they're gone back for 1 day and they're gone for 2. But our bathroom and our bedroom is inaccessible essentially for the whole 5 weeks.
For the whole 5 weeks.
Oh yeah. Which is it was a good learning on Cassie and my docket to understand how to do remodels. Get all of the stuff, have it stored, sitting, waiting, and then let them go do it, and it shouldn't take that long.
Interesting.
That's what I'm going to take away from this so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good takeaway. I mean, you can ask Karen what it's like to be married to somebody that does
You're
remodeling.
a contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like?
Yeah. She makes fun of me all the time for like my short timelines that don't work out. So when I repiped the entire condo, I thought it was going to take 2 weekends, 4 days, separated by a week. And it took like 4.
4 weekends?
Yeah. It turned out to be a little more than what I thought it was. Water heater needed to be replaced. I didn't think it needed to, and so on and so forth. I think we didn't have hot water for a week. And I had to cut into 3 of our 4 neighbors' garages to access the pipes, which I wasn't anticipating.
No way.
Yeah. And then, after all the repiping was done, I had to fix all the holes that I had in their garages.
Yeah.
Which added, a good amount of time.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So you're just like all the rest of them.
It's just what happens, I guess. Modeling is you never know what you're gonna like cut into and find.
That's true. That I get. So I understand that part.
Sure.
What I failed to understand before was how we needed to get everything beforehand. It was not. That was my negligence or naivety in it. And when we ordered it all, and he said, "Hey, go order this. Here's the 15 things you need to buy." We bought it. We said, "Here's the purchase order. And he said, "I'll take care of everything else from that point forward." So he'll pick it up from the store or blah blah blah. But because everything's in the midst of COVID and back ordered and delayed and whatnot, things were coming in 1 week later to 6 weeks later to 8 weeks later. But he started demo
that day when you ordered everything.
Yeah. And that was not a smart move on our behalf.
Did you do progress payments?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Paid him up front?
I paid him a big deposit, or I paid him a deposit. It wasn't a big deposit. I paid him another deposit after something else, and then there was a third one, and then I paid him the rest.
Just get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah. And I chose to pay him.
Yeah.
Everything else. He said, "Here's the remaining whatever $10,000 more left," and I was like, "Whatever, he's gonna be doing it," and I trust him, and let's pay him. So I paid him, and he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." So that was
the other thing about contractors is they work well under pressure, and if there's no carrot at the end of it, sometimes the motivation wanes just a tad.
Oh dear.
That's why doing work for family and friends as a contractor sucks, because you get fit in whenever they have a little downtime, and it may just stretch the fuck out. So anyway, well, it's huge learning.
So now we're living at my parents for a month.
At the mini resort.
At the mini resort.
Parents occupying a bedroom.
Chateau Cuervo.
Chateau Cuervo.
Yeah. It's really nice. They got a pool and jacuzzi. They have one of the members of the chateau loves to cook. The other member loves to take care of our daughter. So it's really not that bad.
Got a built-in chef and a built-in nanny.
Exactly.
Nice.
For free.
For free.
So that's that.
Beautiful.
We're going to talk about this podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about this podcast.
And why the heck we're doing this podcast. So Andy and I decided to do this Conscious Guys Get Laid More podcast because, though we didn't know it at the time, I think it's been formulating and building and growing, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
That there is a need for a conversation around manliness.
Mm-hmm.
And manliness, how productive learning would talk about manliness, I think how you and I would look at manliness, that may not be portrayed by other people as manliness, but this idea to define what manliness is a valuable conversation. And it's a poignant conversation right now because we are still in some portion of the Me Too movement. The height of it is not as high as it was, I don't know, a year or so ago. I don't know when. 2 years ago.
Yeah, almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago. But over the last year, in the push for social equality and equality for minorities, or minorities is not actually the correct term now. Do you know what the correct term now is?
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's minority still has a connotation that they're less than, and so
interesting.
It's now being talked about or trying to be rephrased in a way.
Underrepresented?
It could be that. I don't even remember. I know that it's here's
still has less than, but I'm not quite sure what piece he would be.
Yeah, I know. This is where I think we even talked about it in one of the other podcasts. I have a difficult time with a lot of the way in which some of the extreme social justice warriors are pushing their agenda to make sure that people are not, like, if you offend somebody,
that's not okay. And
I have a fuck you, like, you.
Yeah.
Being offended is a subjective thing. So how am I going to show up in a way where I'm going to be positive that I don't subjectively alter your experience to feel offended? If I tried to play in that game, boy, oh boy, what kind of victim, villain,
it's mired in bullshit,
hero, persecutor, drama triangle am I on?
My therapist does a really good job of this with intimidation, right?
She intimidates you?
Oh yeah, for sure. But there's a significant difference between me being intimidating versus you being intimidated, right? So the same thing can be for offensive. You could be seen as offensive,
yes,
or I could be offended. I could own being offended.
Those are two different things.
They're two different things.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. And to villainize the person that you say is offensive,
they're not necessarily offensive.
Takes no responsibility.
The other person is just offended.
On the receiver side.
Yeah, exactly. They've made the meaning of being offended.
Exactly. So So there's this there's this phrase. Where I heard it was it was in a headline. It was LGBTQ plus BIPOC, BIPOC.
Okay, what is BIPOC?
And I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
And so then I had to look up what BIPOC meant.
And
BIPOC.
we're gonna do that again.
Yeah, because I
totally don't remember.
BIPOC meaning.
Yeah.
BIPOC. Shoot, how did it? It was Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Okay.
And that was a way to change the idea of calling somebody African American, because not all Black people are of African descent, or they don't associate themselves with African descent. They could associate themselves with Jamaican descent, or
something else.
Yeah, or something else. They just don't consider themselves African American.
Okay.
And so it was Black, Indigenous, and then people of color. We'll just call it people of color. And people of color could be Asian, Australian, Indigenous. It didn't matter. It was just any other thing other than white.
Okay.
And why did we get into?
You were talking about manliness, and then
in this day and age.
Yeah.
So there's the Me Too movement. There's this LGBTQ and BIPOC movement, and there is an aggression against white males as seen as privileged, right? Which I'm not saying that they're not. There's definitely a privilege to being a Caucasian in the United States right now. But there's not a conversation about, so how the hell are we supposed to show up? How do you and I as males show up in a society that what we are learning is a lot of our history we've done, we as a society have done wrong. We have not shown up in good ways that I would like to represent and demonstrate to my daughter and or our clients. But to condemn and not to correct, like, it feels like my high school soccer coach at the
just get better.
Yeah, at his mid game pep talk, just do better. Like, what the hell does that mean? So that feeling, I think, that you and I had why we started the podcast is so that there's conversation about, so how do we show up as men? How do we get to shoot the shit? How do we get to talk about tough issues? How do we get to show up strong and courageous and challenge one another, which could be seen as the typical man, but then also have a soft side where we have emotions and we love and we care and have concern and we have empathy, which is very much like what I want to be seen as when somebody says, wow, that is a great man. Lindon Crow's a great man. I want to be seen as all of that whole spectrum. So that's where Conscious Guys gets laid more started to come from. And my idol.
You have an idol
in my mind, who I'm going to think of, what would who I'm going to think of, how do I want to show up is James Fraser from Outlander. Look it up right now. Whoever's, all four of you that are listening.
Do a search for images.
We'll pause our conversation. Search for images. James Fraser or Jamie Fraser. That's his nickname. You can call him Jamie if you want to, once you get to know him a little bit. He is all that is man. He's goddamn gorgeous.
Okay, so there's the physical aspect of James Fraser that is drop dead gorgeous and sexy. Understood.
Wow.
This is exactly what it means to be a man. And what else drew you to James Fraser? Because in our original conversation about this, I'm like, you're talking about Outlander. This is
Outlander. You have to say it like that.
No.
You have to say it like a Highlander. Outlander.
Yeah. Okay. So
say it like it. Say it.
So you can make fun of me?
No, because you gotta just say it. Outlander. Outlander. Exactly. There it is.
Okay. So on Outlander. I mean, I've heard people talk about this for years. It's been on for a long time.
Yeah. Just a bunch of seasons.
Women are drooling over this guy and the show because he's so sensitive, and it really just speaks to the women and what they want and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's great. I'm not interested. And I don't really know why, but it just seemed not my style. But you're really hooked on the show. You're really hooked on what was going on. So tell me more.
So yeah, so what he does is he is just the quintessential gentleman. So he multiple times in multiple seasons, he is willing to put his life on the line for a very understood and well articulated value. So it's not out of reaction. It's not out of anger. It is, I'm going to go and commit my life to the defense of my family, my wife, or my clan, because he's like a clan leader. You know, he's the Scottish Highlanders, and what that represents. And so there's this like, you know, it is this is 300. This is like the movie 300, right? This is what's that guy's name? King.
I'll figure it out.
Dang, I was gonna say Marcus Aurelius, but that's
Rome.
That's Rome. Greeks were
Sparta. This is Sparta, but
this is Sparta.
So there's a set of values, a code of ethics that's represented.
That he lives and he will live and he will die by.
Okay.
But then there is also this way where his girlfriend turned to wife, who in the show there's this time traveling aspect to it. The gal,
sexiness.
Yeah, right. See how she's getting turned on. See, where she is. She can be dramatic sometimes. She can get offended by something and just go down a line. And he has great ability to listen to her, understand her, not condemn her, and let her keep going. When it's okay for her to keep going, and let her express and try and figure out and go through error or upset or maybe succeed. And then he also knows exactly when it is no longer appropriate. And he puts her in her place and corrals the conversation in a way that it reflects back to her, this is who you want to be. That's why I won't allow this to happen any further. So it's this constant living by these values that is expressed in a way where people understand it and they buy into it, because that's what they want for themselves. And he can hold the line and corral people or inspire people to move. You know, like, damn, and you're also 6'4" and sexy as fuck.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. And he's soft and caressing and super passionate, and the sex scenes are, you know, just like that.
All right.
Just like that. So he's a man.
So how's this inspired you, and then the direction for Conscious Guys getting laid more?
Yeah, so it's inspired me whenever I want to have sex with Cassie. I put on an Irish and Scottish accent. No, just kidding.
You just scream Outlander, and it's done.
It only worked once.
It only works once. Okay.
No, well, it's inspired me because there's it gives me somebody to think about when I'm in a reaction, like how would, like the concept of what would Jesus do? Like that's something that people think about because it reminds them of all of their Christian values and how would Jesus show up to this conversation and
build a fucking mega church.
Yeah.
Sorry.
and so this is like that same idea. I'm just gonna get a wristband that says, "What would Jamie Fraser?"
Yeah. Or take off your shirt.
Yeah.
And yell Outlander in the bright cards
in Highlander Scottish accent.
That would be awesome.
So yeah, so it has me think of, I am passionate about this and I'm not getting my team on board. And if I were to think like Jamie, it would be because I'm not articulating what the value is. They're not seeing the value. I'm just saying, go, 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 push, 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 mush, mush, mush. And that doesn't move people. And I've seen James Fraser show up that says, these are the values of the clan, or these are the values of our family. This is what we have dedicated ourselves to. You have already been in agreement with this. So here's what we have to do in order to execute on those values. What's also great is where he can be so passionate and persuasive and attached, but that has negative connotation. I don't mean that in a negative way, but he can dedicated to these values.
Yeah.
But then if somebody has a reason, a logical or rational reason that demonstrates a new way to express that value, he is open and receptive to changing and admitting his fault and how he thought that value should have been expressed. And then what he does is immediately he acts upon it. And that's another big thing where I'm like, that's a huge thing where I value, and it's a practice that I try, is when I get an insight in myself and that has repercussions out into the world, is to immediately act on it. In whatever small, medium, or large act comes to mind, it's to act on it. So if this was like a conversation where actually we're going to talk about this later, about like when you and I had our blow up. I had an insight an hour later after we hung up, and I thought, oh, well, we need to have a conversation. We're not done. We need to have the conversation. I knew we needed to have a conversation. I didn't know what it was going to be about or when we were to have it or whatnot. But once I thought about it, and an hour later something else came to mind, that's when I texted you saying, can we have a conversation this afternoon? Let's do this now. And then we had our second conversation later that day. So it's just this feeling of needing to act on the insight or the change in direction to, for me, solidify back into that value. And that's also what I see in my idol, Jamie.
Wow. Dude, that's a lot. That's so much. I love the part about being able to
the 6'4" nakedness. Oh
yeah. That and now you got me thinking about it. Jesus.
You want me to pull up a picture?
No, you showed me pictures earlier. They were fantastic. They're ingrained in my mind.
Yeah.
So the ability to adjust in the way that the value is represented, I think, is something that is can get lost when people begin to build an identity around the way something is done, or the way that they see themselves associated or identify with a sports team, or a state, or their college, or their whatever it is, so that now their options are limited to something, and that could be both productive and unproductive when engaging with other human beings. And I think that could be a lesson for all men as they develop their consciousness, is to be able to have the ability to self-express, to be constrained, like you said, by their values, and then be open to to a different perspective on how to represent that value
Yeah.
in their life and so on.
Yeah, and I think it's a hard thing to do, at least for myself. I have a feeling like it is for a lot of people, where you're both so dedicated to something, because that half in, half out, pussyfooting around is not manly. So you have to be fully dedicated, but then totally willing to adjust
Mm-hmm.
and be dedicated to something else, whether that's just a 1 degree difference or a 90 or 180-degree difference. Because in my mind, at least the way that it sits, if I, without looking at the experiences that contradict this, is, well, when I don't commit and I'm kind of pussyfooting around, then when something pops up that sounds better, well, then I'll commit more to that.
Right.
As opposed to, no, I'm taking the 5 freeway and I'm going to keep going on that no matter what, until I realize that I should take this other highway.
Until I have other information.
Until I have other information that
Yeah.
tells me otherwise, and then I'm fully dedicated to this other path, this other route.
Mm.
And that's what that does for me in my insecurity, is making the shift has multiple components. It's one, am I so dedicated and then am I messing something up? Like, to get dedicated to something as opposed to not dedicated to anything.
Mm.
Am I messing something up because I'm going to lose opportunities, like opportunity loss,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm choosing the one route as opposed
Right.
to 4 others, right? I'm just going to choose this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary, I put my stake in the sand moment, where now people can look at you and say, that's what you're doing? You sure?
Yeah.
Right? Because then
that happens to you a lot.
Then the feeling of shame or guilt can flood in. It has the higher potential of flooding in.
Mm.
And then the next one is making the shift and change, and then people saying, well, see, you didn't figure it out the first time, so what makes you think you're going to figure it out this time?
Right.
And then my feeling of, I wasn't smart enough, I didn't see it, they're going to think I don't have my head on my shoulders, comes up. And I have to get over, me personally, I have to get over those 2 big insecurities to gain the value of the strength with being dedicated and going and going and going until you get newer, different information which says, and now alter your direction, like Sir James Fraser does.
Right.
I lose the strength and the power of that if I stay in the pussyfooting around. Anything could be happening. It doesn't matter. I don't really care. It's all, however that can show up.
I think too, there's the picking the direction, being committed to it, and driving forward. It's a very, I guess, in this masculine feminine energy conversation, like the driving and the moving and the pushing is a masculine energy, right? And then the feminine energy is like this accepting and bringing in of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of those are necessary for you to pick the direction, drive towards it, and then still be open to all this additional information coming in. A lot of times, I think, for me anyway, driving and pushing toward a goal, I kind of close off the acceptance or the willingness or the openness to even have new information come in sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, but that new information is vital for the change in direction.
Right. Because there's the potential that could provoke all of the, see, you didn't know, you didn't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Or for me, if you didn't know, you didn't do it right. Yeah, that's totally fair.
I think that happens a lot in politics too. Like when you're looking at people get accused of being flip-flopping and all this other stuff, but that's actually what being human and being a man or being a politician and even being a woman means, is pick a choice, you make a choice, you make a decision, and then as new information unfolds, you make a new decision.
Right. Right.
It has to be that way.
Thank God that person learned that those 4 votes that they had in the 1990s doesn't serve them anymore, and now they want to be a better leader.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
As opposed to the person that didn't change ever and hasn't taken into account new information.
Exactly. I think that's part of the issue and the rub with some of the aggressive ways that, as you were describing it, the climate in today's world, the acronyms, right? And the people of color groups and the Me Too groups, and some of those people on the extreme fringes are demanding it and vilifying and saying things in a particular way. But how easy is it for anybody to digest that level of aggression or take that in?
Tell me more.
So like,
I didn't follow.
so yeah, a little all over the place. So like representing and being a man, solid. I'm a white male, you know, middle-aged.
You are
privileged as
yeah.
fuck, right? And so even with that, it's I don't even know how to even describe it, but so how do I represent myself? And I'm not going to be a victim to my privilege. I'm not going to be to hold back on the life that I want to create for myself and my family, and the way that I want to participate in society, and the voice I want to bring to social justice. Like none of that is changing within me.
Yeah.
And yet I'm feeling attacked sometimes, and as though I can't be proud of the things I am. I have a penis, I have white skin, great, but to be proud of that can be seen as an issue.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, where there's this condemnation now for who you are,
right,
which is what we are trying to correct when we were condemning people for being black or of any other race. And so now we're being condemned for this. So we're using fire with fire. So so are we just going to burn the whole fucking thing down? No. Let's have these conversations. Let's correct ourselves and give better guidance for how to show up, so that I can have a conversation with a Black, Indigenous, or person of color and a white person. And we can now formulate a new construct that says, oh, we're all equal here. Hello. What value do you have? What value do you have? Okay, well then let's create something really cool because you have those values and I have these values, and it's not about race and colors.
Yeah.
Did I just turn your conversation into a different direction?
No, it's just it's such a broad concept and conversation, and there's so many nuances, and people can pick apart, you know, the words, the tone, the way you say things, and it just, fuck, I just wish it was easier to do, but it's not. It's where we are, and how we need to continue to live and continue down the path, right? What's the new information from this moment forward for us in being a man, and what it means to be a man, what it means to be a white man, what it means to be a person of color and have a penis? I don't fucking know. I don't. So let's find some people to talk to about it.
Let's bring some people onto our podcast.
Let's do that.
Who should we bring?
I don't know. There's some really cool people that I follow on Instagram. Maybe I'll just message them and ask them to come join our conversation.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I feel like this is a good wrap to our conversation. Should we do a short one? This is a great conversation, dude.
Thanks, man.
Here's to James Fraser.
Yeah. Maybe next time we'll do it with our shirts off. Hope y'all get laid more.
Bye bye.